Before we begin, we would like to extend our deepest sympathies to the families of the victims of these senseless crimes. The loss of their loved ones in such a tragic manner is heartbreaking, and their memories will forever be honored and cherished.
Beneath the surface of every innocent smile, a secret identity may lie. An identity so well hidden that even those closest to these people may have no idea. Today, we present 3 such gruesome and chilling cases from around the world. The first story is from the United States, where a seemingly ordinary man's twisted actions reveal a life of hidden horrors. His case shocks not only his community, but raises unsettling questions about the depths of brutality. The second case, from Chongqing, China, is perhaps the reason why people these days no longer wish to believe in humanity. This is the case of a 2-year-old girl, Zhang Rushu, and 1-year-old boy, Zhang Yangguri, who were murdered in cold blood by the very people who were supposed to protect them. Lastly, we turn to Europe, where a devastating crime took place, shaking the community to its core. In Freckleton, Lancaster, a fire claimed the lives of 4 siblings, 4-year-old twins Holly and Ella Smith, their 2-year-old brother, Jordan, and their 19-year-old brother, Reese, who tragically died while trying to save his younger siblings. The one responsible was a family friend, a teenager who committed an act of unspeakable horror. There are many mysteries surrounding these cases, and even more questions circling around the details. What were the intentions behind these acts of terror? Is there more to these stories than appears on the surface? People who've been struck with a knack for bloodlust stop at nothing to get what they want. Their greatest pleasure is often tormenting the innocents. Beneath the surface of every seemingly ordinary life, a hidden darkness can lurk, a darkness so profound that it can turn everyday individuals into criminals of unimaginable horror. Mark Allen Smith, born June 27, 1949, became one of America's most notorious serial killers, leaving a trail of death across Illinois and Arkansas in the 1960s. Smith's early life foreshadowed his later violence. Born in Illinois to Charles Gilbert Smith and Dolores Recklin, his troubled upbringing was marked by parental separation and a difficult move to McHenry County. His violent tendencies emerged early, likely a result of his chaotic family life, which manifested in an attempted strangulation and the brutal stabbing of a playmate. Despite psychiatric intervention, his dark path persisted, culminating in violent behavior during his time in the Army. On December 3, 1969, Mark Allen Smith abducted 32-year-old Obie Faye Ash from Cotter. The events that followed were horrifying. Smith sexually assaulted Ash in a brutal manner and strangled her. But even after ensuring she was dead, his rage was far from quenched. He repeatedly stabbed her lifeless body, a gruesome act that took place in Mountain Home, where Smith worked as a handyman at a TV repair shop. Once Ash was dead, Smith tied her up with wire and placed her in the back seat of her own car. He then drove the vehicle to a location near the repair shop. Later that day, Ash's body was discovered, leaving a community in shock. She was a mother of 3, her life and future stolen in an act of senseless violence. In a bench trial, Smith later admitted to the murder, adding yet another chapter to his dark legacy. Just a month later, on January 27, 1970, Smith struck again. His next victim was 27-year-old Jean Bianchi, a housewife and mother of 2 from McHenry. That day, Jean was last seen at a local laundromat on Elm Street. She had called her husband, informing him that she would come home soon, but she never returned. Inside the laundromat, her laundry and an unfinished letter were found, but Jean had vanished. 3 days later, her body was discovered in a partially frozen creek not far from one of the town's bridges. She had been sexually assaulted and stabbed multiple times. Smith had come across Jean at the laundromat, forcing her into his car at knife point. What then happened was something from a nightmare. He stabbed and sexually assaulted her repeatedly inside the car, then drove outside of town to dump her body into a stream. But in a cruel twist, as he was leaving, he noticed Jean attempting to climb up the bank, desperate for life. Catching up to her, Smith brutally knew no bounds. He pulled her shirt over her head and continued to stab her viciously until he heard the sound of her lungs collapsing. Only after he was convinced she was dead did he throw her body back into the stream, where it would later be found. On February 27, 1970, Mark Allen Smith was working late at the Resin Research Laboratory in Mount Prospect, Illinois, when he crossed a line that would forever change the lives of many. He was there with 22-year-old Janice Bolliard, who had come in for a late shift. Unfortunately, Smith made unwanted advances towards her. Janice courageously resisted his attempts, but his anger quickly escalated into violence. In a shocking turn of events, Smith attacked Janice, resulting in a tragic outcome. He started beating her and then choked her till she passed out. Smith then led her to another room, where he proceeded to sexually assault her. When he was done, he tied her pantyhose over her neck and strangled her to death. The next day, her fiancé reported her missing, and the community was left reeling when her body was discovered. Now, just a few months later, on May 27, 1970, another young woman fell victim to Smith's heinous actions. 17-year-old Jean Ann Lengenfelter was an honors student preparing for her graduation from McHenry High School. She had plans to study with friends, but was last seen getting into Smith's car. When she didn't return home that night, her family grew worried and reported her missing. The following day brought devastating news. Jean's body was found in a local park. The details surrounding her death were horrifying and revealed the extent of violence she had endured. The community was left in shock once again, grappling with the reality of such senseless acts. Over the years, he has tried to present himself as someone who has changed, even writing a book about his life and crimes. However, many believe he remains a danger to society. Mark Allen Smith's gruesome legacy extended beyond the confirmed murders. He confessed to killing between 3 and 8 women during his military service in West Germany, although he later reduced that number to just 2. The prosecution at his trial argued that Smith's true victim count might exceed 20. His crimes spanned over 2 years and across a wide geographic area, making them difficult to trace and, consequently, easy to overlook. Authorities interrogated him about numerous unsolved murders, including those in South Vietnam, South Korea, and several U.S. states, as well as the mysterious 1966 murder of 21-year-old Valerie Pierce in Kenilworth, Illinois, daughter of businessman and Republican politician Charles H. Percy. The community of McHenry was left reeling from the shock of Smith's evil acts, particularly the murders of Jean Lengenfelter and another young woman. Their search for the killer drew massive public attention, with many residents actively participating in the hunt. Ironically, Smith himself became involved in the search. His arrest came after he discovered Lengenfelter's body with unsettling precision, which led to him being charged with murder. During his interview following his arrest, Smith's behavior was disturbingly distant. His cold-blooded nature was further shown by a chilling statement made in an earlier parole hearing. "Everybody's gotta die sometime." This quote, along with his indifferent attitude, painted a portrait of a man who was not only a ruthless killer, but also disturbingly detached from the gravity of his actions. Mark Allen Smith's legal battles continued well after his initial convictions. After confessing to the murders of Ash and Bolliard alongside the Illinois killings, Smith was sentenced to 500 years in prison in 1971. He narrowly avoided the death penalty due to a moratorium in effect at the time. However, Smith's troubles with the law did not end with his imprisonment. On April 27, 1977, he attempted a daring escape from the Pontiac Correctional Center via the boiler room. His escape attempt failed, and he pleaded guilty to the charges, receiving an additional 18 years on his sentence. During his incarceration, Smith's defense attorney, Harold C. McKenney, along with John K. Hahn, helped him co-author a book titled Legally Sane. In this book, Smith provided a detailed account of his life and criminal activities, including his confessions to the murders he committed in Germany. Smith now portrays himself as a reformed individual, seeking reintegration into society under the new identity of Remington Steele. Despite his claims of transformation, he faces mandatory parole hearings every 3 years, though he acknowledges that the chances of his release are slim. Should he ever be released, he would still face a life sentence in Arkansas for the murder of Obie Faye Ash. Currently, Smith remains incarcerated at the Pontiac Correctional Center. He has found a way to earn income by selling oil paintings to prison guards and is pursuing his 3rd college degree. Smith's life behind bars continues to be marked by a paradox of criminal notoriety and an attempt at personal reinvention. Now, have you heard the phrase, all children deserve parents, but not all parents deserve children? In this next case, this becomes especially true. Let's get into this story. Imagine being born into a normal, happy family, only to have your world turned upside down when your dad cheats on your mother with his girlfriend, leading to your parents' separation. Now, your dad and his new girlfriend are together. But what follows is a brutal murder story that would scare even the bravest. This tragedy unfolded in 2020, when a monstrous father and his girlfriend killed his own children from a previous marriage. But how could a father kill his own kids? The reason will leave you both shocked and disgusted all at once. Zhang Bo was the father of 2 young children, a 2-year-old girl and a 1-year-old boy. He was married to his wife, Chen Mao Mao, and together they appeared to be a happy family, at least to the outside world. But inside the 4 walls of their home, far darker things were happening. Zhang was not loyal to his wife. He was having an affair with another woman named Ying Cheng Chen. Once Chen Mao Mao knew about this fact, their relationship crumbled quickly, and Zhang and Chen ended up divorcing. However, the couple had a shared responsibility, their children, who were barely toddlers. Many would call them a blessing, but not Zhang. Zhang began to see his children as hurdles preventing him and his girlfriend from starting a new family. Fate took a twisted turn as he began conspiring to kill his own children. What happened next was a crime so shocking it sent ripples across the entire country. The entire problem began when Zhang started his relationship with Yi without informing her of his marital or parental status. But the truth came to light soon enough, and Yi learned about Zhang's marriage and children. Despite this, Yi continued to see him after learning the entire truth. One thing led to the other, and finally Zhang divorced his wife, Chen Mao Mao, in February of 2020. But that just solved one piece of the puzzle. Yi still saw the 2 children as obstacles to marrying Zhang and burdens for their future life together. Her solution was getting rid of the innocent kids once and for all. Yi Chengchen's motivation for convincing her boyfriend to kill the children was disturbingly clear. She saw them as obstacles to their relationship. Allegedly, Yi had pressured Zhang to kill his children on multiple occasions, as her parents had objected to her marrying a man with children. She decided that the only way to be with Zhang was to eliminate the barriers. Yi told Zhang, "When the kids are gone, I will marry you. Why don't you kill both, since you will be killing anyway?" Her words dripping with manipulative intent. Yi repeatedly pressured Zhang to commit the murders. After endless nagging, Zhang finally gave in and agreed to killing his very own kids. The couple planned to disguise the murder as an accident. They devised a master plan to stage the deaths as the result of a fall. And finally, on November 2nd, 2020, around 3:30 p.m., the plan was set to action. The 2 innocent kids were playing on the windowsill in the guest bedroom, unknown about the atrocity that was about to happen to them. In an act that could only be described as satanic, Zhang seized the legs of the 2 toddlers, the 2 kids who were his very own, the ones who were innocently playing, and hurled them from the window of his 15th floor apartments. Boom! A loud crash was heard below the apartment. In a matter of seconds, the city had seen something that changed everyone forever: the death of 2 children right in front of their eyes. After tossing the children from the window, Zhang was seen by neighbors crying beside the lifeless bodies. One child died instantly after the fall, while the other was pronounced dead at the hospital. When speaking to the police, Zhang claimed that the children fell while he was sleeping, and that he only woke up after hearing people shouting downstairs. But this explanation was hard to believe. Could two children really fall simultaneously from the 15th floor and no one would notice until their bodies hit the ground? Such statements, to say the least, were deeply suspicious. The children's mother, on the other hand, was left in utter shock and traumatized upon learning of her children's tragic deaths. The trial of the case took place in Chongqing, and the Chongqing High Court heard the case. On April 6, suspicions were inevitably raised when the facts seemed inconsistent with those from the initial trial. But alas, the truth came out thanks to the authorities, who diligently carried out their duty and got to the bottom of the case. It was evident the kids didn't fall, but were pushed down by none other than their very father and mistress. The verdict stated that when Zhang Bo hesitated, Yi forced him to commit the crime, and finally, he followed through with the murder. They were both responsible for the murder of the two toddlers. Zhang Bo was convicted of throwing two children out of a high-rise window from the 15th floor in 2020, while Yi Chengchen was convicted for pressuring her boyfriend into killing the children. The mother, Chen, said that the moment I heard my kids were actually thrown out of the 15th floor by their father and the mistress, I couldn't find any words to describe my feelings. She was further devastated by the shocking news of her children's deaths and lamented, I couldn't imagine what my kids experienced from the 15th floor to the ground. Were they desperate? Were they afraid? These statements by the mother were heartbreaking, to say the least. The claims were that Zhang was directly involved in carrying out the murders, while Yi played a more active role in influencing the decision to kill the two little children. She not only chose the method, attempting to stage it as a high-fall accident, but also pressured Zhang to commit the murder. However, the conclusion was straightforward. The two had equal roles in this horrific crime and were both deemed the main culprits by the court. The killers of the children, Yi and Zhang, were charged with the death penalty by a lethal injection. Over 2 years after China's Supreme Court approved their death sentence, their execution was finally carried out. People all over the nation who were awaiting this finally took a sigh of relief. Known for its strict legal system, China quickly imposed the death penalty for this crime. The reactions to the couple's death penalty by lethal injection were mixed across the nation. Some viewed it as fair justice, while others believed it was too lenient and that more torturous methods should have been applied. The crime committed by Zhang and Yi sent shockwaves across China due to its cold-blooded nature. It was one of the most heinous acts imaginable, two innocent toddlers cast to their death from a great height. The brutality of their actions left an indelible mark on the country, a chilling reminder of the depths of human cruelty. Beneath the surface of every innocent smile, there can lie secrets that haunt the darkest corners of human nature. Our story centers on Dyson Allen, a seemingly ordinary teenager whose actions would forever change the lives of a family in Freckleton, Lancashire. On January 7, 2012, a heart-wrenching tragedy unfolded in Freckleton, Lancashire, when a fire claimed the lives of 4 innocent siblings. The devastating blaze destroyed the home of the Smith family, leaving behind a scene of unimaginable sorrow. 4-year-old twins, Holly and Ella Smith, their 2-year-old brother Jordan, and their older brother Reese, aged 19, were all victims of the horrific event. Dyson Allen, a 19-year-old with no fixed address, was found guilty of manslaughter after being accused of starting the fire. The court learned that the fire began in a wardrobe in the children's bedroom. Allen had been alone upstairs before the fire. The 19-year-old had been drinking heavily since the afternoon and was about to light a cannabis pipe when the fire started in a bedroom of the bungalow. Neil Fleetwood QC informed Preston Crown Court that the partygoers had been drinking and smoking weed throughout the day, affecting their recollection of events due to alcohol and cannabis. Michelle Smith was alerted to the fire when Allen ran downstairs shouting, "Fire!" At this point, Reese Smith attempted to rescue his younger siblings. Although smoke alarms were installed, Reese had removed them a few days earlier because they kept making beeping noises. In his witness statement, Allen described going upstairs and noticing that the lights suddenly went out. He saw an orange glow coming from behind the children's bedroom door. I opened the door to check and suddenly thick black smoke hit me in the face, he said. It knocked me backwards. I started shouting, "Fire! Fire!" right away. However, forensic experts determined that the fire was not accidental. They confirmed that a naked flame had been deliberately held against clothes in the wardrobe. The court also heard of the heroic yet tragic actions of Reese Smith, who died because of the smoke after going back into the house in a desperate attempt to save his younger siblings. After the fire, Allen posted on Facebook describing Reese as a hero for his attempts to save his siblings, a gesture that seemed to mock the gravity of his crime. Despite his previous admissions of setting fires in his youth, Allen did not explain the fire's ignition during the trial. Michelle Smith and Martin Golding, Reese's father, spoke about their feelings. They were deeply saddened by the loss of their children, who they described as beautiful. They mentioned that knowing why their children were taken away would not bring them back. They were also upset that Dyson Allen, who could have explained his actions, had lied from the start. In their statement, they paid tribute to Reese, who died trying to save his siblings, and said they were eternally proud of his bravery. Detective Chief Superintendent Dermot Horrigan called the case one of the most tragic and significant that Lancashire police had seen in years. He criticized Allen for showing no remorse and for lying throughout the investigation and trial. The sentencing for Dyson Allen was postponed until September 27th to allow time for psychiatric reports to be prepared. Despite his denial of initiating the blaze, which he claimed was accidentally caused by a fallen candle, the jury at Preston Crown Court found him guilty of 4 counts of manslaughter and sentenced him to a minimum of 9 years and 3 months in prison. He was acquitted of murder. Joanne Cunliffe from the Crown Prosecution Service described Allen's actions as truly wicked and praised Reese's bravery as a stark contrast to Allen's cowardice. Cunliffe hoped that, although the verdicts couldn't bring the children back, they would provide some comfort to the Smith and Golding families. Although Allen, now 30, had not served even 10 years of his sentence, the parole board recommended his transfer to an open prison in April 2023. This recommendation was made following a hearing, suggesting he could be moved to less secure conditions. However, Justice Secretary Alex Chalk intervened during the 28-day appeal period, using new parole laws from 2022 to block the move. The Ministry of Justice determined that Allen was still too dangerous for a lower security facility. Transfers to open prisons often preceded release on license, but in this case, public safety was prioritized. A spokesperson for the Ministry of Justice stated, "Public protection is our number one priority, which is why we blocked Dyson Allen's transfer to open prison." All these cases are a reminder of how unfair life can be and how easily human beings can become so inhumane. But how can they commit murders and take the lives of others so easily, and often without any reason backing them? How do they not feel the weight of their own conscience? It's a chilling reality that some people are able to turn off their empathy and carry out such acts without remorse. Now, what do you think? Let us know your thoughts down below in the comments. Thank you for watching so far, and don't forget to like this video if you haven't already, and share it with your true crime fan friends. And don't forget to subscribe so that you don't miss out on anything.